Okay, we're back with another Catalan recipe. What are we gonna cook today? Today we're gonna cook a dish that is called Mandonguilles and Sèpia. This translates to cuttlefish with meatballs. In Catalonia, there are a lot of dishes that combine seafood and meat. And this is one of them. So let's go through the ingredients here. Make sure I wash my hands. Okay. So, what do we have? We have cuttlefish. This is called dirty cuttlefish because they don't clean it. I'll clean it myself. The reason I get the cuttlefish is because they give you the spline, which is, a lot of people throw it away. I like, and not just myself, like my mom too, for example. It gives like a special flavor and color to the dishes. This is the spline, and that's why I get it dirty, and then I try to clean the skin myself. I'll show you later how I do that. So I have a couple of cuttlefish here, this size, medium size. Then we have 200 milliliters of olive oil. We have about 150 to 200 milliliters of broth. Then I have a couple of bread slices here. Salt, cumin, cinnamon. We're gonna need some milk. This is cooking wine. We call it vi ranci in Catalan. I'll check it out later, what's the translation. Couple of tomatoes. We have 1 egg here. 2 onions, 400 grams of minced pork meat, 400 grams of beef meat, 2 garlic cloves, and one slice of toasted bread. Then we will need like 10 maximum toasted almonds. And I think that's all we need. So let's get started with this. Come on. Okay, we are going to start with the preparation of the meatballs. In order to do this, the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna get a little bit of milk. We're gonna place it in a small bowl, just like this. And then we're gonna get the white part of the bread. And you will see what I do now. I'm gonna put it in the milk. Just try to get all the white part. And what I do this, I want to explain why am I doing this. Like, what? Meatballs with milk and bread? Yes, that's right. So one of the things that happens when you try to do meatballs, at least happened to me, is that they end up being dry. So the taste is good, but they end up being dry. So what I'm doing here, I'm gonna add some texture and moisture into the mix of the meatball by putting some of this bread in milk, which then I'm also gonna use. I'm gonna remove the milk from the bread, but the milk will have the bread will already have some milk on it, and then we're gonna be using that to put into the mixture of the meat. So I'm gonna reserve this here. So in order to do the meatball, we're gonna put the 2 meats, the pork and the beef, in a bowl, just like this. This meat is already salted and peppered. The local store I buy, they do it for you. So I'm gonna mix this together. And then I'm gonna have to get the egg and 1 garlic clove. And here's where I diverge from my mom's recipe. She is pretty traditional Catalan, and we don't tend to add a lot of spices besides the salt and pepper. I like spicing it up a little bit with other spices and just try to add a little bit more flavor to the meatballs. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna be using a little bit of cinnamon and cumin, and I'll just add it to the sauce. I might boil like maybe just a spoon. No, we don't want a lot of this flavor, but just a little bit, and then cinnamon too. Okay, so now we have this, and now what I'm gonna need is a garlic and an egg, which I have here. We don't need to beat the egg, we can just put it like this. Remove this, and then I'm gonna peel the egg. My knife. Okay, so put some space here. I press so that the skin is easier to remove, just for the people who don't know. And cut it into really small pieces. Actually, I think I'm gonna use another. This garlic clove is really small, so I'm just gonna use a couple of these. I like garlic flavor in my meatballs, so I'm just gonna use 2 of them. That's the beauty, right, of cooking, is nothing's stopping you from doing whatever you want. I mean, within the limits. The other day I was talking to a friend of mine, Johannes, and we're talking about, you know, cooking and ideas for the channel, and he said, yeah, you just, you know, sometimes you gotta kind of freestyle. Say, yeah. It's like, I was thinking, you know, I'm pretty messy when I cook, so when I edit the videos for you know, for YouTube, gosh, sometimes I spend a lot of time to make it look like, you know, the kitchen is clean and like everything is properly divided, and, you know, and he was saying, yeah, maybe you can just, you know, make it look more natural, as long as you don't just put an egg and like throw it in the floor and then put it back in the in the bowl. I was saying, yeah, that's true, that's where the limit is. So I'm just trying to cut the garlic as small as I can, so that we don't find really small, big pieces when eating the. I think this is pretty good. So I'm just gonna throw it, and I'm gonna use a fork to mix this up. There we go. This is clean. Gonna get a fork and mix it up. Oops, we're missing the bread. Let's see. Oh man, I can find the strainer. Okay. I'm just trying to remove as much as I can the milk from the bread, but still, it's still gonna be moisture enough to give more softness to our meatballs. Oh man, I throw the milk. My mom always tell me Don't throw anything. And the milk, you can put it at the end in the dish. I threw it. Yeah, Catalan cuisine is known for not throwing anything. You don't throw anything. You reuse everything as much as you can. And part of this is because unfortunately we had almost 40 years, actually 40 years of, a dictatorship, and we also went through a civil war, and Catalonia especially suffered a lot. So, you couldn't throw food. You had to reuse as much as you could, right? So that has, it's in our roots to be frugal and reuse as much as we can with food. Unfortunately, new generations like myself, we freaking throw the milk. Oh boy, who's here? Hi. Hi, Mia.
What are you doing?
I'm doing meatballs. You wanna help?
No, I'm doing that activity.
All right. Can you close the door? I'm recording a video.
But where is the video?
Here in my head.
Why?
Just for fun. All right.
Let's finish that.
Back at it. So, as I was saying, yeah, frugality in the kitchen. Reuse. I'll give an example. When in holiday season, well, here, Christmas, we prepare something called, the broth. So we have a name, it's called escudella de Nadal. And, you use veggies, you use some chickpeas, and then you use the meat, right. So with that you make a broth, okay? But then with the remaining of the veggies and meat that you used to cook, you don't throw that. You also put it in a plate so people can eat it, okay? And then with those leftovers, you mix them up and then you do croquettes. So that's just an example of something like in other places you make the broth, and then since those ingredients don't really have a lot of flavor, you just throw. In here we do 2 more dishes. Okay, sorry. So I got distracted with history and whatnot. We just mix this up. I'm gonna let it sit in the fridge for a little bit while I clean this a little bit, and then I'm gonna start cleaning the cuttlefish. So let's put this in the fridge, and I'm gonna get the cuttlefish. All right, so here we have our cuttlefish, which, as I said, is called Sèpia bruta, which means dirty cuttlefish, and it's dirty because they don't clean it for you. I don't know how likely is or how common is to find this in the US, but because, well, first, I don't know if you will be able to find it dirty, maybe in some fish stores, but I'm not sure if cuttlefish it's just a Mediterranean Sea fish, or you can find it somewhere else. Regardless, it's a delicious fish, one of my favorites. And what I'm doing now is I'm cleaning up this skin here, which is hard because it's pretty slippery. And well, if you use the kitchen paper, sometimes it's easier, but it's not an easy job to do this. So there we go. All right, we got it. There we go. So we want to remove as much as we can of this skin. All right. Satisfaction when it's gone, it's pretty good. All right. Here, I'm using this board I use this board for fish and meat so I don't contaminate the other board. Okay, this one is gonna be harder to do. I'm gonna throw this here. I'm gonna put this. So let's try these big guys. These are the legs. I'm gonna do this later. If you don't do the legs, that's fine. There is not that many of the skin. The only problem with the skin is that it makes the fish, like, once you bite it, it's just stronger because this skin is pretty strong. So you can eat it. It just like it adds a little bit more of stronger texture, and you wanna avoid that for your customers. Is that right? Need more paper. Oh. Continue peeling the skin. Yeah, speaking of Sèpia, there is a lot of ways to cook Sèpia. There is the grilled Sèpia, grilled cuttlefish. It's pretty common in coastal towns. I really like grilled cuttlefish. You have to be really careful though on how you cook it because it can become hard really easily. If you let it cook for too long, it's hard. I mean, once you put it in the fire, it's hard. But then you have to know at which point to remove it from the fire. Otherwise, it removes too much water and then it's also really hard to eat. So, man, Johannes told me, well, Johannes, my friend, when we were talking about the channel, he said like, yeah, you also, like, you should also show how you chop the onions and how do you do all the labor. And that's what I'm doing now, but gosh. Yeah, it's laborious to do this. What else can I say about Sèpias? My memories of eating Sèpia. I mean, when you're a kid, Sèpia is that type of, oh boy, I'm throwing the trash here. I should go there. It's one of the dishes that they give to kids a lot because it doesn't have bones and pretty easy to eat. Just cut it into pieces and the kids don't have to really worry that much about it. And yeah, I remember used to go to a town in Tossa de Mar, coastal town up in Girona, and they had this fish restaurant, seafood restaurant, where they would just have a grill and anything you order, it would be the same. It would be the same kind of preparation. They would get the fish, put it in the grill, and then top it with a little bit of mustard. What am I saying? Mustard, not mustard. Garlic and oil and salt, olive oil, and a little bit of parsley. That would be how they present all their dishes. But it was delicious. Like the fish comes right from the sea, like I don't know, 100 meters from where the restaurant is. Okay, we're gonna prepare the meatballs now. I'm gonna clean a little bit, and then we're gonna come here and prepare the meatballs. Okay, we have the meat here. I just removed from the fridge, and I noticed that it's a little bit too wet. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna add just a little bit of breadcrumbs so that it kind of gets some of the moisture from it. So I didn't want it to be too dry. And at the same time, something to tell you is that I have a pan here. Oh, I need to put the olive oil there. Have a pan here. I'm gonna put some olive oil. we're gonna start warming up the pan because we're gonna start doing our meatballs. So, size of the meatballs, I don't care, whatever you want. Whatever you want, that's the size of the meatballs. I like them big, easier to make, maybe a little bit harder to cook, but I like them. Wow. Some people like them smaller. It's really up to you, up to whatever you want. And then you just roll, 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 roll. All right, let's do this. Let's get these guys, put them in the fire. All right. What we want to do here now, we're gonna brown the meat in all sides. And then once it's brown, ouch, damn it. Once it's brown, we're gonna remove it and store for later. We just wanna brown them. We wanna seal the meat. No, sear. Scott, friend of mine, told me that you don't call seal, you sear the meat. Watch out, Mia. Oh, what's that?
Me and you.
Oh, nice. What are we doing?
Me and you.
Here's some fin.
A stormy day.
Oh, okay. There is clouds and rain. Okay.
Is that beef or cumin?
All right, let's clean this. So here's the meatballs. High heat. We want to seal all the parts of the meat. So we have to keep turning. The meatballs, I don't know if we can call them balls. They're not completely circular, but we're searing the meat. Why are we searing the meat? Good question. I answered this in another video. We sear the meat so that the juice doesn't come out. It stays inside because later we're gonna put these meatballs in a kind of like a stew, not stew, but like a sauce. And we don't want all the juice to go out of the meat because we want that when you bite the meat, you get the juice from it. So, I'm gonna do this here. I'm gonna clean a little bit and then we'll be back. Okay, so we're ready. We have the meatballs here, which they're brown on all sides. So I'm gonna store them in a plate, set aside in a plate. Actually, I'm gonna put a little bit of kitchen paper so that they don't have a lot of too much olive oil in them. And what we're gonna do now, set this aside, and we're gonna put the onion, which I've peeled, put the onion in a blender, and then we're gonna add the onions here, and then we're gonna add the fish. So we're gonna set this aside here. Beautiful. Now let's cut the onion into pieces to go into the mixer. There we go. I'm gonna remove some of the burnt pieces here. All right, so mixer. Just gonna add the onion inside. Wait, you can see. 1 second. My camera position. There we go. I'm gonna add a little bit of olive oil. cover. And then cool. Add it in with the remaining olive oil. And then while the onion cooks, medium heat, I'm gonna cut the cuttlefish. All right, I'm gonna put the heat to medium, and I'm gonna get the cuttlefish. I have it here. We previously cleaned it. I'm gonna get the board for meat and fish, and we're gonna cut the cuttlefish. Reserve the spleen here. I'm gonna add it in a small container. There we go. All right, here we go. That's the spleen right there. All this brown sauce is the spleen of the cuttlefish. Then these other, I'll do that later. I'm gonna first cut the main pieces in. I like cutting it in small pieces. I like this dish. Small pieces is how it, to me, it tastes the best. Some people like it in larger pieces. I personally like it in smaller pieces here. So I'm gonna do one by one. Okay, I finished cutting the cuttlefish. The part that is close to the spleen, I don't put, but I'm gonna store it here for another recipe. Cut the legs too, put them here. And now I'm gonna add the cuttlefish into the onion. It's going in. There you go. I'm gonna turn the fire a little bit higher.
Come again.
1 second, Mia. What? Meatballs and cuttlefish. 1 second. I'm gonna let this sit and then I'll come, okay? We're storing the spleen for later. We're not putting it just yet. So now we're waiting here for this onion and cuttlefish. We're waiting for the onion to be a little bit brown. Starting to get brown. I'm gonna wait maybe 3 more minutes. Meanwhile, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get the tomatoes. I'm gonna remove fish. I'm gonna wash the knife. Washing the knife. Gonna get the tomatoes. Add some. I'm gonna wash them. And then just removing the hard part on top. All right, here we go. And then we're gonna blend this tomato and put it in the mix. As you can see, this is, we just use this for the onion and tomato. Sorry for the onion. So I'm just gonna use the same one for the tomato. But as you can see, I mean, this happens in a lot of cooking, right? But in Catalan cooking, there is always, almost in every single recipe, there is onion and tomato. It's the base of our cooking. Onion and tomato, onion and tomato. So this is starting to get some color. The onion, as you can see here, it's getting a little bit, making sure it's brown. So I'm gonna add the tomato. Into the mix. And now we're gonna let this sit for about 30 minutes, I believe. Have my notes. Gonna wait a little bit until this is mixed. And then after 2 or 3 minutes, we're gonna add the spleen as well as the wine. And then we're gonna add the 2 glasses of broth, which I have there. Which I need to make sure that this is actually, yeah, this is okay. Yeah, that's fine. And the wine, I eyeball this. I love eyeballing. Just like every recipe, every dish tastes differently when you eyeball. That's the beauty of it. Jesus, this is hard. What the hell? This Johannes will love this part. Ah, boy. Oh my goodness. I don't know how to open this. I don't know if it's... Ooh. Oh my gosh. Ooh. Ooh. Smells strong. Just gonna add one more. Oh shit, I think I put too much. That's okay. I'm gonna mix the spleen in here. And then this is going in. Let's see. All right. I think this needs a little bit more of without the broth. There's too much water here already, so I'm gonna let it sit a little bit longer. I'm gonna put the heat a little bit higher. Meanwhile, I'm gonna put all this inside, clean. Okay, so after we put the tomato, I waited around 5 minutes, and now I'm gonna add here the broth, the wine, and the spleen inside. And this is gonna, I'm gonna leave it here at medium heat for around 30 minutes. Just slowly letting it get all the flavor. And then in 30 minutes we'll add the meatballs. And I mean, this is starting to smell really, really good. I'm gonna do a close-up. Some bubbles here. Some bubbles are coming up here. Alright, we're back. This has been cooking for around 30 minutes. What we're gonna do now, we're gonna add the meatballs inside and let it cook for 50 minutes, more or less. We want the meatballs to get cooked. So let's add them one by one so they don't break. And 4 more. And while this cooks, I want to show you something that we'll add at the very end, which is called picada. Picada is one of the other things, like pretty Catalan kind of ingredients, sauces that you add at the end of stews, meat, fish. So here's what it is. I put all the ingredients here. I'm gonna just split them up for you. What we add is, make sure, yeah, we add some toasted almonds. We can break them up. This, okay, we have the toasted almonds here, and then we're gonna add some toasted bread. Just we want it to be really, really toasted, or like dry. If you have dry bread, don't throw it. Store it to make a picada. Okay, here we go. And then we have a garlic clove. Man, it's so hard for me to pronounce this. Clove. I'm not gonna put it all. I'm gonna put. Okay, and now we're gonna add a little bit of parsley too. Let's wash it. Some people add garlic. Some people add parsley, some people don't. I like the parsley flavor. Here we go. And now we need a little bit of liquid too. And for liquid, I'm gonna get a little bit of broth from the fridge. I think I have some broth over here. Oh, it might be frozen still. Bummer. All right, it's frozen still. Never mind. It's fine. We're gonna add something else. We're gonna add just a little bit of water. Okay. Well, I realized my camera was not properly pointing to this. So basically what I did here with this mortar, I keep smashing the almonds, the garlic, the parsley, the bread, and a little bit of water. And this is what we call picada. The good thing about the picada, and you add it in dishes at the very end, is that it helps the sauces come together, and also it adds this like peculiar flavor that for Catalan cooking. So when you talk about picada, you talk about Catalan cooking. So cool. Gonna add a little bit of salt and syrup. That's it. We have a good picada here. Cool. So we have 10 more minutes to go for the meatballs. I'm gonna turn them so that all the parts get properly cooked inside. And this is gonna be it. Smelling really, really good. I'm gonna taste the. At this point, I like tasting the sauce. Just to see if it needs more salt, I'll correct it. It's gonna be really hot now. It's really good. I think with strong flavor. Hopefully the meatballs they have a lot of salt, because this is pretty salty. But yeah, Let's see. Okay. Let's be back in 5 minutes. All right, so this has been cooking for around 10 minutes. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add the picada that we prepared before. I'm gonna add it inside. Put it everywhere. And then I'm just gonna put some sauce here to make sure that we remove all the almond. Okay. And now just gonna make sure that it goes everywhere. Reduce the heat, low heat, and then we're just gonna leave this for 5 more minutes. I see that it's starting to thicken, so I'm gonna just add just a little bit of water. Just a little bit. Okay, just a little bit, 5 minutes, and then this is gonna be ready to serve. Okay, this is done. It's been 5 minutes, and the sauce has thickened a bunch. So we're ready to put this in a plate and eat it. I'm just gonna start putting meatballs. 3, 4, 5, and 6. We're 3 people eating, so we're gonna start with 2 per person. Gonna add some cuttlefish on the side. And then I'm just gonna add some sauce on top of the meatballs. And this is it. That's the fish. Mandonguilles and Sèpia. Meatballs with cuttlefish.